Many of us are familiar with days that are ruined by one bad event. Dropping your lunch, stubbing your toe, or losing an important file. This is because our brain registers negativity significantly different than positivity. This tendency to surmount bad events over a multitude of good ones is called negative bias. Negative bias occurs when our brain dwells on negative events so powerfully it rejects and ignores the positive ones, therefore causing a bad event to have greater psychological effect than the good events that we experience. Let's examine this closer to see what's occurring in our brain to cause negative bias. The things we experience have the ability to stimulate electrical activity in our brain at our cerebral cortex. The studies done by John Cacioppo, PhD at Ohio State University, studied this response. Think of this electrical activity as a spectrum. On the lower end of the spectrum, there are things that make us feel neutral, like hair, or a rubber band, or a plate. Then, higher on the spectrum, there are things that arouse positive feelings, like puppies or ice cream. Yet, what stimulates the most electrical activity in our brain are negative emotions, like when we see a dead puppy, a mutilated face, or barf. Cacioppo's experiment reflects how our brain tends to surmount bad experiences because those experiences synthesize more electrical activity in our brain, making our attitudes more heavily influenced by negative events than positive ones. Negative bias can also affect our perspective on people. One bad action from an individual can tarnish a reputation of good deeds. For example, Prince Charles. When many hear his name, we are reminded of his infidelity with Princess Diana, instead of some of his political accomplishments, like learning Welsh at a young age, or his current combat towards climate change. You see, we often first associate significantly bad qualities of a decision of a person before their redeemable qualities can be considered. This tendency is also recognized as negative bias.
This psychological effect was discovered by and studied by Paul Rosen, who studied at the University of Chicago and Harvard, and Edward Roseman, who studied at the University of Pennsylvania. In 2001, they found that species will emphasize the negative events rather than the positive ones. Rosen and Roseman theorized that there were four main reasons negative bias has the ability to manifest. 1. Negative potency. Although negative and positive events may have the same magnitude, they will not necessarily have the same level of importance. Number 2. Steeper negative gradients. Think of this as a negativity scale. For example, as unfavorable events such as a final draws closer, the magnitude of the event's negativity will increase as well. Number 3. Negativity dominance. When an event has both negative and positive components, people always tend to see the negative of the situation. Number 4. Negative differentiation. Research has shown that negative events need to be processed more than positive events by the brain. This is because it's a more complex feeling. That's why we see it as more of an intense experience. Scientists believe that negative bias came about through evolution. It's believed that negative bias was used to keep our ancestors on their edge from threats around them. This is an important concept to know because realizing its significance can allow you to live a more positive life. Negative bias can affect the way you make decisions, interact with the people around you, and motivate others. Although negative bias was a good resource for our ancestors, it's no longer a benefit to us today. So, to avoid using the concept in our lives, the first step is to acknowledge the fact that the concept is something that you do and experience. Second, we need to realize that there is more to life than the negative events and situations, and focus on all of the positive things going on around us. Third, we need to allow ourselves to be more mindful of our own actions and words. Be more in touch with yourself, and it will allow you to see more of the positivity that the world has to offer.